to Exeter TV. Thank you for tuning in to Exeter TV. Exeter TV is the town's public and government access channels, available on Comcast Channels 6 and 22. Channel 6 is your channel. If you have an idea for a program, want to host your own talk show, or submit a film, we're here to get your content on television. On Channel 22, we bring you live and replay coverage of government meetings and other town updates. A third channel, Blue Hawk Media, is operated by SAU 16 and can be found on Channel 8, with all your school sports, events, and meetings. You can watch Exeter TV online at exeternh.tv, Apple TV, and on Roku. Find us on social media for extra content. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell to get notified about live streams and new content. Tune in to our platforms every other Friday to watch the Exeter Biweekly Report, with recaps of recent events, updates from town departments, and messages from nonprofits in your area. If you head to our website, exeternh.tv, we invite you to sign up to our newsletter to receive monthly updates about new content, upcoming meetings, and more. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch Exeter TV and hope that you tune in to our other content as well.
Advisory Committee is called to order. Welcome here and welcome everyone. Let's start with introductions. I'm Steve Jones, I'm the chair, and
Ann Hohenberger.
Keith Whitehouse.
let's do committee first.
Dave Sharp. Bill Campbell.
Mary Teagle.
Devin Scarrett.
And we have our rep from the select board,
Nico Papakosendis.
and we have two staff members,
Dave Sharples.
and who's, finance, and we have a member of the community. Yes. Yes. Don't get fun. Is there any public comment? Hearing none. Let's move to the draft minutes that Dave so carefully crafted. Are there any corrections, notations, additions, deletions, edits that people would like to make?
I move they be accepted as presented.
I'll second it.
Dave? Mary has moved, and William has seconded. Any discussion?
No comment.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say no. The minutes are accepted. Thank you very much, Dave. And just for the record, Dave wrote a slightly more humorous version
Oh, I
that I
love it.
edited down for official consumption. Dave, I appreciate your humor very much. I do.
That one line is what motivated me to continue writing the minutes.
Yes. Oh, Jen. Introductions. Yes. Joining us.
Jen Martell.
Thank you very much, Jen, for being here, as with everyone. Let me take a moment to say thank you especially for showing up on the eve of a major holiday season. I know that everyone here has a lot of other commitments, and so we will be out at 6. And if we're not done at 6, I will gavel us closed at 6. So we're going to start with a report on the route of donations. I'm going to ask Ann, as a member of the committee, and Corey, if you don't mind speaking, and Nico. So Ann, why don't you start, and then I'll go to Nico.
I had a great meeting with Corey and Nico, who explained to me the workings of a warrant article that we can present a proposal in January to have a warrant article giving us an account with $1 in it. And you can go from there if you'd like to say more about it.
Pretty open canvas.
Yeah, it would give us a nonprofit status of $250 or more.
Corey.
Sure.
Yes.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for having me. So I met with Ann and Nico to discuss what is possible through the town for raising money through private donations, what that might look like, and then what your other options might be. Through the town, we are not a 501c3, nor would we be under anything you do under the town. You would be accepting donations through the town. And what we would end up doing, very simply, is setting up an account to segregate the funds that came in. That would be under the stewardship of the trustee of the trust funds.
Yep.
And you would work through the trustees whenever you wanted to extract funds for the purpose stated in your in the fund's purpose. So what you might do is craft a warrant article for this upcoming March to create an expendable trust fund. That's probably the best vehicle for small donations that you would be receiving. If it were approved by the voters, We might do it with $1, and then we might do it with $10, and it's something to just have something in it. Small because we can't commingle what the voters appropriate and what donors put into it subsequently. We'd establish the fund. I'd probably recommend a conversation with the trustees up front so it was crystal clear what your intentions for the funds were, so there was never a question about when you go to them and ask to withdraw, that you're withdrawing for the purpose of it that was intended. And establish the fund, assuming the voters would approve it, and then begin to collect donations. And donations over $250 would be treated like any other donation to a nonprofit. We would probably give some kind of standard letter that acknowledged to the donor what they were contributing. And that's really just about it. It can be
Okay.
as simple
And
as
so donations, just to be clear, under $250 would not be,
require a letter.
they would not require a letter, but would they still be tax deductible?
I believe so. I think that was an open item of mine to deal with. And I
Okay,
didn't.
if they aren't, could we do the Friends with the chamber, if they're willing? And the $10 donations could be,
Yeah, I guess I could get back to you on that, and maybe in an email, just what happens below $250.
I believe, and I'm speaking out of ignorance, so I may be wrong, but I believe that they're all tax deductible. So Dave, you can see me. It's just that the over $250, one gets the gratuitous letter, gratuitous in the true sense of the word, as it is given as a gratuity, a thank you. Under that amount, one can claim it, but one has to go seek out the employer ID number for the tax deduction. That's my understanding. That may not be correct.
So the way I read the IRC, the Internal Revenue Code, a donor cannot claim a tax deduction for any single contribution of $250 or more unless they obtain the letter.
Correct.
So probably below the $250, we can infer that someone could
Yes,
claim.
right. And the employer ID number or tax ID number, is that readily available for?
Yes, the town has a tax ID number.
And it's readily available?
Yes.
Yes, okay. That's more my point.
Yeah.
so we could make that clear.
We could make that clear,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah,
And you referenced working through the chamber in some capacity.
Yeah.
If you were to work through the chamber, that work would be independent of the town. And at such time as the chamber and/or this committee saw fit to donate funds to the town for the purpose of the park, you would do so like any other donor, private donor, making a contribution. But in that instance, the town would not have any involvement in your fundraising, administering, reporting, record keeping, keeping track of the dollars that came in until such time as you turned over the funds to the town.
I understand.
thank you.
You're welcome.
On behalf of the committee, thank you very much for coming this evening and spending the time. And I personally very much appreciate your presence. Do you mind if I turn to Nico? And Nico, if you can take that mic. Nico, do you have any comments you'd like to make at this time?
No, I agree. We had a great meeting, and I agree with, Corey's recommendation that this be done as much through the town as possible. It's very similar to the Arts and Culture Committee several years ago requested that a warrant article go on very similar to what Corey's suggesting so that they could accept donations. I just want to stress that it's probably the most transparent method in which to accept donations. I would concur with what he said. And if the board wanted to, or the committee rather, this evening wanted to take the matter up and make a recommendation as to whether or not you want to pursue this, the time to write the warrant article, which the town manager would do, would be now.
Yes. Okay.
Question.
So let's open it up for discussion among the committee, if you can. Ann, did you have anything else to add?
Well, in that warrant article, we have to make sure we cover everything that money will be used for, whether it's maintenance or any, right? So he has to meet with one of us, or,
Yeah, I guess if you would allow me my 2 cents, what I would recommend is perhaps not taking as far as maintenance, maybe thinking of the expendable trust fund as development and construction of the park, because we have a Park and Recs department that gets funds each year, that maintains parks.
Okay.
That might be the vehicle to maintain it going forward, or maybe this committee evolves and someday, you decide some other mechanism for maintaining it. But I would think I would keep the expendable trust fund to those 2 pieces,
Okay.
Getting it through construction, bringing it up and online, and then take it from there.
thank you.
And the 2 pieces you recommended were construction and
I said development and
development. Yep.
I'll get you
Yeah.
through
Okay.
the go live.
Ann, are you done?
Be satisfied.
Okay.
Answers everything.
Thank you very much for meeting with
Well, thank them.
Nico, and yes, I do very much do. Mary, let's start off with you because you spoke up first, but I want to open it up after you to anyone else on the committee. Mary, did you have a question?
Yeah, I do. I'd like a clarification on the tax deductibility for donations of all sizes. And also, would that include contributions of services and goods?
Can you give an example, Mary?
So let's start off with, it's a 2-part question. Let's start off with monetary donations of all sizes.
Fine.
Yes, that was the first question.
I guess I would say there would be some research to get you clarity on those. I don't have answers to
Okay.
The off the cuff, this is, again, I'm speaking off the cuff, I could be wrong. Any donation is appropriate for tax deduction. It's over $250 where you're required by the IRS to get a letter in order to claim it.
Right.
Yeah,
And so what's the documentation for less than $250?
none required.
But if I'm going to say I donate $50,
Yep.
it's tax deductible. Maybe I have to provide documentation. If I were audited, I probably would have to.
I'm not clear on that, but my reading of the IRS record regulations is it's not required, even if you're audited. Yes.
So one
I
thing,
am married to an attorney, and so I speak like this all the time at home.
one thing we've not talked about, because it's probably not relevant just yet, is what goes into a donor acknowledgement. There are certain criteria, according to the IRS, that you have to state. You all could make the policy that we're going to give anyone $10 or $10,000, some kind of
Letter.
template letter that just acknowledged. And in that case, Mary's concern might be allayed, because anyone who gave $10 or whatever would get some kind of acknowledgement.
Okay. And part
And I'm sure
two,
the tax accountants would appreciate it.
yeah, something. Part two is goods and services.
Right.
And Devin asked for an example. Somebody here might be an architect, and their services could be tax deductible, a tax deductible. Somebody here might sell trees, and if they contributed those, would that be a charitable contribution or not?
I think my initial answer would be yes, because one of the criteria in the letter is a description but not the value of non-cash contributions. So they don't want the recipient to try to value the service or the trees that were given, but an acknowledgement and some kind of description of what was given. So I would say yes, but we could probably look into that a little further for you.
Okay, and then one last comment. I think there might be some overlap between the development and construction phase. And we're in the development phase, right? And then there's construction is phase 2, say. In between, there might be some professional services that would be hired. So I'm not going to try to get into a big discussion tonight, but when the warrant article is written, or maybe that pertains only to donations, I'd like, at some future date, some clarification about, because it's going to overlap. It's not going to be development ends and construction begins. There will be overlap.
Yeah, and those were two quick descriptions of how you might describe what you're going to be doing with the funds. I totally agree that you want to be as clear as possible for the trustees so that there is no question or ambiguity when you go to start doing all the great things you want to do as to whether you should be taking those funds or not. So the wordsmithing of the warrant article and all, I think, is something that will take some time to do and would be looked at by town manager and probably Dave. I hear him quipping in the back here as well as maybe some ideas as well. So, yeah, there would be effort put in there to make sure that your intentions match what the trustees' understanding is.
Okay, especially those 2 points that I raised about clarification on who gets documentation of their contribution and how it spills out when does development end and construction begin, given that there probably will be an overlap.
My sense is that a warrant article can be written that doesn't distinguish between lists development and construction, but doesn't distinguish between them, so that funds can be expended for either.
Yeah, I think I agree with you.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Dev, you were making nonverbal communication. Did you have a question or a comment?
Yeah, I think I'll start with the one question that's bouncing around my head right now. Is there any reason to distinguish about within the article about donations from individuals versus groups or organizations?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Yeah, okay. Brief context is that I did an interview with, I can't remember anything, Greg, head of Parks and Rec. I interviewed him yesterday, an extended interview for an hour. And when the conversation came around to how we might pursue supporting our funding for the park, he surfaced some of the local kind of like community and civic organizations. I think the example of the Rotary. He's like, the Rotary has in its charter that they're supposed to help develop parks. At this point, it's just an idea that he was surfacing, but it's the context to my question of if we were to entertain an organization, be it a civic group or somebody else. That's the only reason why I ask.
I can't see why you wouldn't. They'd be a donor like anybody else. I think we just want to distinguish between what is a donation or a contribution and a grant. Mm-hmm. Grant would be treated entirely separately, would not go into your expendable trust fund. Not that it wouldn't be there for when you want to use it, but it wouldn't go in the same account.
Yeah. So then my only other question, again, connecting back to the interview that I did with Greg, is a large body of that conversation was about when I asked him, what are the things that you're thinking about when you think about this park? He talked a lot about maintenance and some of this challenge. So I don't want to go into that, but I found it noteworthy that you distinguished between writing the warrant article as to really be about kind of a first phase, as you will, of the development and construction and not include maintenance. Can you say just a little bit more about why you'd recommend that and follow that with, if we get to a point when the park is built and it becomes something that we would want to help subsidize, what would we need? What would have to happen then?
I guess my first thought is, I'm not sure why we would treat this park any different than any other park. But someone with a little bit more history, such as the town manager, might come in and say, oh, there's plenty of precedent for that. I know that Parks and Rec maintains lots of parks, and they do it within the constructs of their budgets and funds that we give them on an annual basis. And I don't mean to say that you couldn't have a phase two where there was a maintenance, contemplation, and maybe you do take this warrant article, through that visionary process. But if we're trying to get a park designed, developed, and constructed, I would think that would be our first phase. It's nothing to say the warrant article couldn't be amended in the future so that the fund took on a new purpose, and that purpose morphed. But it's also not to say that you couldn't decide to do it all in one article now. Maybe. Yeah.
So I agree with that. We have multiple parks, and the Parks and Rec have a budget for maintenance, and this is going to be a park just like the other parks that the town has, and so that maintenance budget will include maintaining the park once it's built. I think that the expectation for the initial fundraising here is to do exactly what we just said, develop and construct it. Regarding the warrant article, it needs to be crafted. The town manager is incredibly talented at doing this, right? You want to craft it so that it's specific enough for the trustees of the trust fund to release the money for what you want to use it for, but you don't want to make it so confusing that it doesn't pass. And that's where he has that talent. So, tonight, just getting the understanding that, yes, you want to move forward with developing this fund, and you want to develop it to apply donations to the development and the construction of this, then working with the town planner, the finance director, he can craft that warrant article so that you're successful in that regard. Moving forward, as Corey said, if you find years down there, bless you, if you find years down the road that you want to expand or change or alter how this fund's used, you can amend a warrant article and put it on the next ballot. But I think in terms of maintenance, I would agree, the Parks and Rec Department has a maintenance budget, and I think that was sort of the expectation when we took this on, that ultimately, once you do your work here and work with Dave, and you'll start to see Mr. Bisson coming to meetings once you get to that stage. So that would just be my suggestion.
Yeah, I think that's fine for now. I'm good. Thank you.
Dave Short.
I think we've kind of exhausted this topic, and I want to make sure we have enough time for
Yep.
Amanda and Deb to
Yes.
make their presentation.
Uh-huh. So do I hear a motion?
No.
No? Okay. Then might I give a motion? I'm not sure, do we need a motion?
I think just a consensus of the committee that you
Okay.
want the town,
Yeah.
but if you wanted to craft a motion, you could do so just moving to entertaining a motion. to
Since we
the
have
town
someone
manager.
on Zoom, are we required to do a?
Roll call.
Roll call, yes.
So you
Yeah.
may want to consider entertaining a motion to recommend that the town manager put forward a warrant article to set up the fund for donations.
So in advance of the discussion that will happen with a motion, I will volunteer myself to work with the town manager because this is one of the few things. I am not an owner of a nursery. I do not have experience doing landscaping, aside from a very limited amount. And I am not a landscape architect or any of the other things that the several of you, all of you, bring to the table. However, this is the sort of thing that I can do. And so unless someone is eager to do it instead of me, and I'm not necessarily seeing any volunteers, I'm happy to take this responsibility on.
Good.
Yep.
Okay. Then do we have consensus? This is avoiding a roll call vote.
Yes.
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 Okay, all right.
Yes.
Nico, we have consensus. I'll be working with the town manager and you on a warrant article, and Dave. Okay. And the first point of contact is Dave. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I can coordinate the others.
Can I deviate from the agenda a little bit? It's really easy. I just wanted to acknowledge, hi, Amanda. That's all.
Amanda is here. Yes, Dave, you're correct. Let's move on to draft list of requirements, which you two.
We'll tag team it.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think this can be super quick because
Yes.
we haven't really developed anything.
Right.
We're working on it. Do you want to?
So,
That's one side. Okay, let's go.
yeah, we are, and we're working on a, what we've been calling an architectural program. And Jen and I met, and we're on draft 2. And one of the things we did come up with that I wanted to share now, because it has to do with our public outreach, that is in asking members of the public what they would like about the park, to try to dig out activities. And I won't say zip line, because that was one of them. What do they want to do in the park? You know, rather than what do they want to have in the park? Not rather than, in addition to, what do you want to do in the park? Because it yields a richer answer for the design of the park. Should I give an example?
No.
Okay. So that's,
Yep.
and we'll report in either January or February, and it will be preceded with a document that Steve will send out.
Very good.
Sound right? Okay.
Okay. Now on to the public input subcommittee update. Amanda, can you hear us?
Uh-oh.
She's
Yep,
got a presentation.
I'm ready whenever you are.
Ready and go.
It's showing?
Yes, it is showing.
Beautiful. Okay. So I wrote draft all over this because it's a draft. So keep that in mind. I will, when we finish all of the input gathering, I'll finalize this with Anne and Dev, and we'll give you the final copy, and everyone will get a copy at that point. Does that sound okay?
Sounds good.
All right. So this is the only really text-heavy slide because I just made this one. The basic method so far, we've had about 515 responses that are included in the data set tonight. I haven't updated it with every last one that I've gotten in the last week. So Dev has some additional interviews. I have some additional slips that I picked up. There's some additional survey responses that haven't been put in yet. It's looking like it'll be close to 600 when we're all done, if we keep on track with the way we've been going. So that's pretty great. I will give you details of exactly how many responses we got from each type. So how many survey responses, how many interviews, how many suggestion box comment slips. I'll give you that when it's all said and done, so I don't have to do the math over and over again. But the primary source at this point is the survey. That's heavier. Second is the election day. Third is interviews and the suggestion boxes. Anne and I met and we read through the responses looking for kind of common themes. And then we gave all of those numbers. So we had far more than 10, we had like 17 or 19 common themes. And then we went back through all the responses and coded each response for any theme that it might have had. So one response, if they said 2 things, they could get a 1 and a 2, or a 2 and a 12, or whatever. Then we use that to figure out the total frequency of each of those themes, and I have the top 10 for you tonight. The bolded responses when in the qualitative section just means it's something that got a lot of responses. So I'm kind of writing it up for you qualitatively first. You'll have a few slides on that, and then you'll have a few slides with like the math. Okay? I can't see you, so just someone say you're with me.
We're all with you, and you're doing great.
Okay, thank you. It's so awkward. All I can see is myself.
Oh, okay.
All right. So these were the big categories of responses. So I just, again, for clarity's sake, I sort of arranged the slides in this way. So responses related to layout, features, materials, furnishings, plants. The fun and funky section is really fun. That's where there was kind of like one-offs of the zip line, et cetera. And then I have a little mood board for you and a couple other things that I made today that didn't get put into this. Okay, so layout. These are a lot of the common responses regarding layout. So you can see the bolded things had 5+ responses, so that I'm just starting to take this and funnel it down for you. So some people, a couple, one or two may have asked for a serpentine path, terrace steps, a horseshoe walkway. But a lot of people asked for a patio area or a deck area. Some people asked for a lawn area. A lot of people asked for a play area, an eating area, etc. So I won't read them all to you as we go through. I'll give you a couple seconds here. And then I'll continue on. So I called this just features. And again, this is qualitative. I have this in quantitative, top 10 form in a few minutes. But I want you to feel like you're getting the raw data in a sense without looking at 600 responses.
Mm-hmm. If I might comment, Amanda?
Yeah, please.
The only thing here that truly is a surprise to me are the swings.
It's a really popular. Wait till you see how popular it is.
Yeah, that's just not something I'd consider. Everything else here I'd heard about or thought about.
Yep.
Anyone else got any initial impressions very quickly?
There's more categories coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's let her get through.
Yes. Yeah.
So we can.
Okay. Materials, there weren't a lot of comments on materials. So some people, called out the granite. Some people called out brick. Some people called out decking. Furnishings. I didn't include swings here because I put it in the other one. It felt more like a, I don't know. It could have gone in either. Plantings. A lot of people wanted natives and pollinator plants. I'll tell you that. That was very common.
Okay.
Here's the fun and funky slide. So these are all the things that were almost a one-off, except for dog park wasn't a one-off, but.
Oh.
I think they just want a dog park anywhere, and they're kind of using this as a platform to speak about it. So that might be good for discussion at the next master plan, even if it doesn't really fit us. But yeah, people came up with some interesting stuff, huh?
Yeah.
It's fun. People had a good time.
Yeah, I love it.
Oh, here's your preliminary top 10. Everybody wants a place to sit. But yeah, the swings was huge. That was in the top 3. An overlook is kind of what I called it, where people wanted something that was decking over the river, or they wanted to be able to, access right on the water. Some people wanted to be able to a platform to fish on or something like that. They want to get close to the water and physically feel like they're kind of stepping over it a little bit. So I called that an overlook. Public art was big. I love this phrase multi-generational. I feel like that really encapsulated a lot of people's sentiments about wanting it to be somewhat fun, but not a playground, right? So they wanted sort of like adult fun, something for kids, but that wasn't going to be specifically for kids. So lots of people reference like wanting to be able to go there with multiple ages or have multiple ages kind of enjoying it at the same time. So I called that multi-generational.
Good term.
Yeah. So that's our top 10. Are we okay to go on?
We are.
Okay. So I did take the liberty of doing a couple extra things here, just for discussion points. So I put together a couple mood boards, just some pictures to kind of represent some of the things I read. And these are obviously not user submitted photos. I know that, and I want you all to be, super clear on that. But I just thought it would help spark since we didn't do the Pinterest board. So here's kind of what people mean by porch swings or bench swings. I thought that was helpful for anybody who hasn't seen one before. A lot of people referenced Newburyport and the bench swings that they have in Newburyport. So if anybody wants to check them out in real life, that's where they are. Couple more pictures: decking, overlooks, lights, educational plaques, using the granite. Just food for thought. So this is just me doing this, and we need to do this as a committee, absolutely. But it seemed like the two sort of very disparate ideas were it being grass-based and decking-based. Those were kind of the two really distinct concepts that would completely change the look or feel of the park. Some of the things could go in any configuration, right? So we can go through this with more of a fine-tooth comb, but bench swings could go in either one, native plants could go in either one, right? But you really can't have it be you can't have a lot of grass if you're doing deck, and you can't have a lot of decking if you're doing grass. Maybe that one is more so. But just an idea for the architectural committee. Maybe if we end up coming up with two concepts, those are the kind of the big drivers that I'm seeing so far. And yeah, we have a little bit more time for the input. So we said till December 31st. So I'm going to pick up the survey boxes, the suggestion boxes, and close the survey and all that on December 30, or I guess January 1st. So I will update this when that has finished. And thank you, Anne. I heard your presentation on, what you're working on with fundraising. And, that's going to be continuing to be ongoing as we continue through this. So I guess that's a good time.
First, Amanda, thank you very much for putting together a crackerjack presentation. I think all of us understand the challenges that you face in your personal life with your hectic schedule, and the fact that you're able to put this together in spite of that is quite impressive. Not only that, the content is quite impressive. There's one member of your committee that we haven't heard from. I'll ask Dev. Actually, I haven't heard from Anne or Dev. Yeah.
Go that way.
Okay.
Yeah, Dev's definitely want him to talk, but I haven't included. Just didn't have time this week, and he did another interview today, and so some of that is going to be additional content that'll go into that January presentation that'll really be finalized.
Very good. Anne, did you have anything else to add?
No, I'm still asking questions and gathering, so
Okay.
I'll get those to you.
Perfect.
Dev, did you have anything else to add? Other than how enjoyable the chocolate is.
Yeah, the chocolate is really enjoyable.
Yeah.
I I would reiterate, this is awesome work. I would say my qualitative observations from having sat a few times at and around the park engaging people, and just so people know, it is everything from putting up a display table with the great helpful board, kind of like the folder board that was the display at the election day, kind of redoing that, to just walking around the parks and talking and interviewing people. And then on the holiday parade night, I was there, just standing there with an easel sheet of blank paper and a whiteboard to let people kind of draw and sketch. I would reiterate qualitatively that intergenerational nature. It suggests like there's an inclusivity that people, I think, are looking for about that space. My own inference about the people who I've talked to is there's something kind of really contextual about where that park is that I think a lot of us know intuitively or have kind of talked about. Like where that park is, in some ways it's in a design parlance, like it's in conversation with a park across the water. But it also exists along a very specific stretch of commercial corridor, which is, a few shops and restaurants right around there. So some of what I heard is like people want more places to sit down and eat. And if they're going to get food there, they don't want to have to walk out to the park. I forget, is it like Townhouse Park? There's the one right over here. Is that what you call that? They don't want to have to walk there. They just want to be able to pop down. If they're people carrying kids or grandkids, they want their kids to be able to hang out there. If they are middle school or high school students, PEA students, they want to be able to hang out there. There was like kind of a universal tone of what people want to do is they want a place that they can relax. They want a place they can hang out. They want a place that they can eat. And they want a place that feels of the space. Something else that I would add, the interview I did with Greg is really the first in-depth qualitative interview with one of our key stakeholders. I was negligent in missing a meeting to talk to the Conservation Committee, so public apologies for not making that appointment. I'll do better. So we have some more people to talk to. I think in-depth interviews are really helpful because they provide just a lot of context. In some cases, stuff, maybe we don't know about. I thought that it was intriguing for me to hear Greg talk about just his interest is, number one, he does everything he can on a limited budget in terms of maintenance. So that's why I think maintenance comes up. So people work for him all the time. I'm sure that that's not new news for you all. But the other piece is he talked about how to make that park unique. And that's what he's one of the people who surfaced a deck idea, which I hadn't really personally been conceiving. And that's actually reiterated by some of the information, this helpful information Amanda's giving. And I think people want to be able to do lots of different activities. So we want a park that will be of the people for lots of people, but it can't be a park to do everything. So as I and I'll elicit other people to continue to do some of these cheap stakeholder interviews, I think I want us to generate from this work and the interviews really the design principles that are going to guide the work of what we're imagining. Coming up with those principles based on what the diverse needs and interests of the community are will be really important. That's it.
Dev, may I ask a question? Or Dev, Amanda, and Dev, I believe you have more experience than anyone here. That's going to direct this question to you, but it's not meant to be exclusive. Are you satisfied with our coding?
I think so. I also wasn't there for the meeting. My day job has kept me particularly busy in the last 2 months.
What a surprise.
I need to do more in terms of being able to contribute. So I have not taken a rigorous eye to the coding, but I did have a conversation with Amanda about the coding, and I trust the nature of the process that she used would be pretty would be pretty typical of what we would traditionally use. And yeah, so I think we should feel confident. What I'd be really interested in coming from that question is, I think when we go back to when we set up the subcommittee, we talked about wanting public input to be able to get a diversity of people and a diversity of means. And I would like to make sure everybody in this committee can come back and tell us, do you feel like we have gotten a diversity of people and a diversity of means? I'm curious how this compares to other efforts of public input that the town has taken on, because I think that's part of why I joined, is I wanted to drive us to diverse means of public engagement. And we're not done. We're going to have another round after we've come up with ideas in the spring.
Okay. I'm going to turn this way, but Mary, I'm not turning my back on you.
That's okay. I have a comment.
Okay.
This time.
But I just want to make sure that, I give everyone over here as well a chance to comment, understanding that this is not final. It's just preliminary, and anyone, including Mary, please speak up if you have a comment. If you don't, we'll save time.
I just have a,
Good work.
yeah,
Yes.
I was just going to say the same thing. I'm
Great
really
work.
impressed with the presentation. Amanda, I definitely appreciate the imagery that you included. I think, because when you were saying swings, I was picturing exactly that image that you had. But I don't know if other people were, so I'm glad you had that so we can share it. And yeah, I mean, just great work getting 600 people input. That's not easy.
No,
so,
no, it's not.
That's a lot of hard work.
That's a lot of work that went into this.
I think none of the ideas that people presented, even though some are a little bit out there, from a design standpoint, we can do anything. So I think it'll be a matter of which ones do we really want to, how are we going to use this information? Are we just going to go with the top 5, top 10 and try to cram them in? Or how are we going to, what's the next step and how do we come up with, a couple of schemes that incorporate it the best? So, I think that Venn diagram that you had was a good start. Yeah, and the only thing I was kind of expecting to see, just because of the topography, was an amphitheater or some kind of step down thing, and I don't think I saw that come up, although I didn't read every word that was on there. But
It was in the fun and funky.
oh, okay, all
Fun
right,
and funky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
2 people did say amphitheater.
okay.
Any other comments?
Yes.
Okay, Mary.
Again, also, great job taking a bunch of raw data. And before that, a mission statement and then making it really concise. It's great. You will have a second phase of public outreach after this is more refined? Okay, that was one of my questions. And then the other one was, when I visited with people at the election, and I'm not recording, but conversations with other people, I guess you could call them themes using your organization principles. Geography. So history, which cultural history, pre-contact, colonial history, and contemporary. And then I guess what we loosely call the natural history. And to make that a little more specific, I would like to make some connection with the Exeter Historic Society and with the Native Americans in this region and with the scientists or stewards, some of them aren't scientists, with the various Great Basin environmental ecological groups. There's some pretty serious scientists doing work on the Great Basin. And I would like to see all of the aforementioned represented in our public outreach, because I think I'll be a champion for those. I think it's really important to give more than a nod to those 3 divisions of history, and more than a nod. I think bird interpretive science, that's great, but I want to dig a little deeper to see what we have an impact, this town, on that river. And the park is a tiny part of it, but we've got runoff. The park is going to probably yield more runoff than the places that have buildings on them. So I think there's a lot to be learned about those two categories, and I'd like to see us dig into it a bit. And I'd be glad to make a list of the natural resource people and people who are more familiar with the town than I'll work with them if they want to work out which Native American folks ought to be approached. So, and then include them somehow with your public outreach. It wouldn't be an independent, it would just be, here are some people that I think we should talk to. And I would love to have the other committee members weigh in on that, either now or in the near future.
I'll weigh in. I think that would complicate, we're talking about development and construction. I don't necessarily think those items need to be brought into the process that we're trying to develop now. They could certainly be kept informed of what we were doing or something like that. But to introduce entirely separate property entities into the function that's taking place here, I think it's more important to take what Amanda's come up with, and Devin and Ann, and that's a small space. And we need to identify from that list that she's put together up to this point, complementary uses that make the most efficient use of that space. Whether it's 4 of those items, 5 of those items, 6 of those items, and that's what we should be focused on.
I concur. I feel like we shouldn't overthink some of these things. I think we should focus on the work you've done and the progress.
I would just add a comment that I've been doing the history of that area, and it's this very small area when you look at it. And there was a dam up there, but there was no building on that property until the middle of the 1800s. That was a shed. It was an area that the Pairpoint area was sort of the spillover of the mill, where they dump their lumber and store their lumber, whatever. But there were no big cannons. There was no battle fought there or anything like that. So I haven't quite finished all the way into the 20th century, which there were buildings there. But the early history before 1638, and I'm sure Native Americans had weirs there or whatever, but I haven't been able to document that. I just assumed they say they had weirs on the river. Well, there probably were some there, but there is not a whole lot of history that went in that area. Nobody fought a battle or died there or whatever to be famous. But I'll give you more as I do some more work.
Bill, if I can ask, has your research been independent? Have you spent time with like a historical society or chatted for
I've
anything?
been doing it.
Okay, great.
Using
Okay.
Barbara.
To remind the committee, we specifically tasked by a motion,
Internet.
Right.
Bill, to come up with a report and work with Barbara Rancunis and the Exeter Historical Society. And thank you for that work.
Yeah.
Didn't get it.
Here,
Amanda,
go ahead.
go ahead.
Well, for what it's worth, I would appreciate the lists, Mary. I think I respect the sentiments that were described by Dave and Keith. We are going to have to decide as a committee about our priorities. And if we want to prioritize an inclusive process where we talk to a wider range of stakeholders that we deem important, then we need more time. Or we need more, perhaps, more resources or a different distribution of resources, because I can barely keep up with the things I say I'm going to do. That's one. I would say of the list of things that you described, I think that I am a member of this committee. I am deeply sensitive to the environmental impact of whatever we do. I would hope that I'm not alone here. I don't know who that means we need to talk to. But the array of people you talk to, I don't know that we're going to talk to all these people. The historical part, forgot about Bill's responsibility in that. I think that effort, as it continues and concludes in some kind of a report, that would satisfy my interests. The third part about the Indigenous community, I personally hold a lot of value in that. Without getting into value descriptions here, the extent to which I, as a member of this committee or other members of this community, want to honor and understand what the even more historical nature of I don't think it's just about that park, right, but it may be about us understanding what has this town done in that space to understand and recognize what that space has meant to Indigenous communities over time. Now, I've tried to reach out to one or two folks in the Indigenous community organization that I became aware of, and sometimes that takes time. And again, we may run into some challenges about our timeline, but I do think that is important. If we can figure out the right people if we can figure out the right people in the Abenaki area who we can talk to about the space, our ideas and intentions, and get some input, great. And if we run out of time, we should just have to decide about a committee, what do we want to do?
With that, I'm going to cut off discussion because we are nearly at time. I thank you, though, for all your thoughts. And Mary, thank you for your thoughts. Or here, but everyone spoke, so thank you collectively for your thoughts. I'm going to ask very quickly, Nico, in a very public way, do we have any update on filling alternates seats that are now unfilled on the committee? In 2 minutes.
I'll do it less than that, no.
Okay. Is there any help yes, Dave?
Did the select board act on Bill becoming full?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So,
And the result is?
Bill is a voting member.
okay.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Good.
I'd also like to report that I was able to work with the town manager to get the key to the park. Dev and anyone else on the committee can have access to the key for the sake of a chaperoned visit to the park. So we have that option available to us. Contact me, please, for the correct protocol on how you do this. And with that, a very happy holiday to all of you. Yes, take care.
Cheers.
Thank you.
We are adjourned. All right.
Exeter TV.
There is...
Exeter TV is the town's public and government access channels, available on Comcast Channels 6 and 22. Channel 6 is your channel. If you have an idea for a program, want to host your own talk show, or submit a film, we're here to get your content on television. On Channel 22, we bring you live and replay coverage of government meetings and other town updates. A third channel, Blue Hawk Media, is operated by SAU 16 and can be found on Channel 8, with all your school sports, events, and meetings. You can watch Exeter TV online at exeternh.tv, Apple TV, and on Roku. Find us on social media for extra content. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell to get notified about live streams and new content. Tune in to our platforms every other Friday to watch the Exeter Biweekly Report, with recaps of recent events, updates from town departments, and messages from nonprofits in your area. If you head to our website, exeternh.tv, we invite you to sign up to our newsletter to receive monthly updates about new content, upcoming meetings, and more. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch Exeter TV and hope that you tune in to our other content as well.